Happy Friday, YouTube. Happy Friday, everyone. And tonight we are joined by Coqui Pirate
Howdy!
and by first time Doctor Who Fridays contestant. No, contestant? That's the wrong word. I was guest. I don't know why I said contestant.
We should make this a competition.
It is. It's,
I am totally going to win this Doctor Who Friday.
Oh, now I'm more nervous.
And some people may know you from London After Midnight or from elsewhere, but I would like to welcome... Well, OldeVampire, why don't you tell the Doctor Who Fridays audience a bit about yourself?
Okay, I met everybody on YouTube here, and then got Skype, and now I'm pretty much at home watching my granddaughter. So when I get to get out once in a while, I feel like, oh, I'm free.
Yes, you don't want the danger of forgetting how to talk to grown-ups. But
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So otherwise I might start singing, nursery rhymes or something.
Aha. Right. Well, this week's serial is the season 2 premiere. And when I say season 2, I mean the actual original proper second season of Doctor Who. Because the next season isn't the 8th season, the next season is the 34th. And it's quite a short one for the time. It's only 3 episodes. So I guess it adds up to about the length of a feature film. And Planet of Giants, I would say it's a middling story. It's an odd one to start with. Oddly enough, I think it was originally going to be in the first season, and they had to put it on the shelf for some reason. Maybe it was the technicalities of some of those sets and props and visual effects. You can see how this was very ambitious for 1964 and the kind of budget that they were on. Coqui, Doctor Who, Planet of Giants, your thoughts?
Well, now mentioning that it could have been season 1, this might have been a better one to end on. We finally got the place and time period right. This is the first time they've been to England, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just find it so interesting that, I guess it took them so long to figure out what was going on. Like, the Doctor would say, I'd almost say that this was an earthworm, if it weren't for the size. It's like, oh, okay. So apparently there's some planets that have the exact same organism, only it's huge. But, what I find really compelling about this episode is its environmental message. And it's a very similar environmental message that we're still dealing with. It's changed in some aspects. I remember they mentioned locusts briefly, wanting to kill locusts. And it's like, oh yeah, not too long ago, there was like this horrible invasive species other than humans that would have caused an ecological catastrophe. So at that point you can kind of see, like, there's a very real pressure, a very real need for pesticide in order to save lives because, I'm not sure if it was during the 60s, but at some point in United States history, the grasshoppers were going through metamorphosis into locusts and just wiping everything out.
Wow.
Now, we've managed to reduce the grasshopper population that they'll probably never go through that metamorphosis again, because grasshoppers are really weird. They make the transformation when there's a high enough concentration of them in a single area. So while that aspect is gone, and there's also the other aspect that it's much safer for human ingestion because we have genetically modified plants that, the pesticide won't, spread to them. So even though that aspect is gone, when they talk about like killing worms, killing ants, killing bees, pesticide is a very likely cause of the mysterious disappearances of bees going on right now. And so, this is certainly a message that that's still quite relevant. That there's a need for pesticides. There's a need to, produce enough food for everyone. But at the same time, they're very real ecological risks. And, back in the 60s, I suppose there was also a very real health risk that was worth bringing up.
Oh, okay. What were your thoughts on the kind of the physical kind of approach to it with the sets and things they must have had to build, and do you think they did a good job by the standards of the time and for a not very big budget?
I don't know the standards of the time. Obviously, when they were up against that big dead guy, it looked like such a, it was so obvious that it was a picture that it looked pretty corny. Giant ants are cool, I guess. I guess they also did a good job of conveying the difference between like the stone that it felt like they were in cracks. The stone and the dirt, and the eggs were cool. And I'm sure that they had to get, like, scrambled for all of these props, which is probably, it had, compared to the other stuff, it involved a lot more props than a lot of the other stuff they've done. So that a delay, I guess, seems sensible. Though, yeah, I do kind of wish that this was the end of season 1.
I love the fly puppets and the fact that you can't see how it's operated. Because I was thinking, well, we're never going to see like a giant insect that's actually moving. And I thought if we did, it would be somebody in a costume. But that puppet is like, oh, okay, how did you do that?
Oh yeah, didn't it move off screen and they just had like wind blowing at Ian? That was clever, a clever way to disguise, because the fly would be terrifying. But yeah.
Yeah. There is there's a genius to they had to have some ingenuity, I think, in doing these things. I think plot wise, the thing that bothers James is how long it takes. But basically, when Ian doesn't see Barbara touching the corn, and he says that he was shouting at the screen, why don't you tell somebody you've been poisoned? What reason do you have for keeping that a secret? And it's just sort of that goes on for a bit, but yeah. But you're happy with the plot, mainly happy with the execution. OldeVampire, your thoughts on this serial?
Well, I see these old shows, and it's like, the more things change, the more they stay the same. We're still having problems with insecticides seeping into our water, and and my daughter was just saying this morning, the disappearing of the bees is going to wreak havoc on our environment, and and money over people, money over what's important. You still see companies, trying to downplay the dangers of their insecticides or pollution, global warming. They still, care about money more than they care about people or the environment.
Yeah, and I suppose this is I think this is the first serial in Doctor Who where it really is humans who are the bad guys as well. So yes, you do get back to 1960s England.
But the Sensorite. They had humans poisoning the water supply, but I suppose they had human and Sensorite bad guys.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, sorry, I stand corrected. There have been baddie future humans. But yes, even when you get back to 1960s England, there's still evil. Well, was there any particular moment or aspect, OldeVampire, that was like your favourite?
Well, I like the fact that the guy had no idea that there were tiny little witnesses to his murder.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay.
Actually, the murder, I think, is worth bringing up, because, you know, like, he pulls out the gun and is like, wait, are they seriously going to do this? And they seriously did it. You know, I don't think, have we even seen anything like that in Modern Who, that, you know, someone pulls out a gun and kills someone?
Oh. Trying to think. Well, we know that there hasn't been a huge amount of death. Certainly not a great deal of on-screen death in the Moffat era. Let me see. A human being just pulling out a gun and shooting another human being dead. I can't think of anything like that in New Who. So yeah, I mean, it was all very kind of cloak and dagger, wasn't it? It's all very and all acted and directed in this charmingly 1960s retro way as well, which I think is
And they were covering up the murder too. You know, they show them carrying the body, talking about disposing it. It's a lot darker than, you know, the Doctor Who I'm used to. But I guess I've kind of gotten the message that old 2, you know, was a lot darker in some ways.
Yeah, it's odd because, I mean, of course, Doctor Who in those days did get complaints. Because, I mean, you've got children watching and what have you. But the things that got the complaints are never the things that you would expect. Trying to remember. The earliest instance, I do know before Doctor Who aired, there was something about that the intro would be too scary for children. But I guess we're not like 1960s children. We can't judge if the Doctor Who intro sequence, which they did alter a little bit.
It was eerie. I mean, you know, even today it has that sort of eerie kind of sound to it.
Yeah. I think the earliest complaints about something that was broadcast is actually Susan with the scissors in Edge of Destruction that reminded people of Psycho. So definitely violence with sharp objects caused complaints. I don't know about complaints for this serial.
And Doctor threatening to, was he threatening to kill Ian, or was it one of the cavemen? I forget. It was one of the cavemen, yeah, that he was going to kill the caveman or something like that.
Yeah, well, I guess you know, it wasn't quite established that the Doctor's meant to be a good guy yet. And people are actually comparing the coming Doctor, Peter Capaldi, with William Hartnell already, because we think he'll be very dark and untrustworthy to begin with, and will soften over time. And of course, Peter Capaldi actually is the same age that William Hartnell was, but William Hartnell played older.
I have no idea why people would make that assumption. I mean, we don't have anything to go on with Capaldi. All we really have to go on is maybe a little senile, because he's like, wait, what am I doing? But beyond that, there's no basis for assumptions as far as I know.
The Doctor Who fandom has its rumour mill, and there are some from tiny bits that have eked out. It's a nice thought to like go back to the beginning, because obviously Clara is now a school teacher, and there's going to be a new character called Danny Pink who will also be a teacher. So 2 school teachers from Coal Hill School will be the companions to Peter Capaldi's Doctor. So that's like Ian and Barbara, the next generation.
I will say, DJ definitely found something about, like, Barbara not saying that she's been poisoned. And, you know, I guess it's easy to judge Ian because we only see what we see. We don't see what he saw. But, you know, she's like, oh, can I have a handkerchief? I guess you don't have to ask what for, but I don't know. Susan got a little shrieky again. And it's not even about her character being incredibly cowardly, though she is a bit you know, compared to the others, she is scared rather easily. But it's also just the acting, the way she acts out being afraid, that just makes it particularly like, again, you know.
Yeah, I guess. Although I suppose originally you would have watched an episode a week, so this would have taken 3 weeks to watch. Doctor Who would have, we've watched, I suppose, a year's worth of Doctor Who. So maybe you wouldn't get so easily sick of it because you'd have time to forget. I mean, I like these characters and I like the style of acting, as I said before. The character is an interesting thing. Now, Tracy, you're not that OldeVampire. You're not that familiar with classic Who. You've seen a bit of the '60s Who before. What do you think of these characters of the first Doctor, his granddaughter Susan, and the school teachers Ian and Barbara?
Well, they're likable. I mean, they seem like people that you could know in real life. But,
yeah.
going back to Barbara, not saying that she was poisoned. Well, sometimes people do act like that. I think especially women sometimes keep things to themselves. Maybe she was in denial. Maybe if she doesn't say anything, it'll be okay. Or doesn't want to look like she was stupid for picking something up.
Right.
But sometimes people don't say things when they should.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I can sort of. I can't quite put it into words. I can sort of see how somebody might not. And actually, just occurred to me the thing about Ian in that situation is perhaps Ian is a little bit inconsistent because in some episodes he seems very observational, very deductive. In this one, it's a little bit sort of happening to miss this, happening to miss that. Which kind of goes with how long it takes them to work out what's going on. Just as Ian, in the Aztecs, he was suddenly a judo master, as Coqui pointed out. But yeah, it's an era of Doctor Who that I get very nostalgic about. Not that I was there at the time, but I saw a lot of it on VHS as a kid and as a teenager. Okay, I'm going to open up the floor if anybody has anything else to add.
Note how, at this point, no one had any issues with interfering with the course of history. Because, again, they have this weird mentality that history ends at present-day Earth, apparently. Even though with time travel, the very notion of there being a present and past kind of breaks down. Which I thought was kind of funny. Okay, another thing that I was kind of curious about, and I suppose this goes with anything that involves shrinking, because, I mean, our cells, they have chromosomes, which have molecules, which have atoms, and it's a very sort of exact amount. So does that mean our atoms shrink too when we shrink? If so, then how would poison even affect us? But that's a very silly thing to think about. But then when they go into the machine, everything in the machine grows, except for the egg for some reason. You could say that they put the egg on a platform that, wouldn't be affected by the size change. But then also, Barbara apparently got larger and could tolerate the poison, while the poison itself didn't grow at all. But these are like silly little things that you can poke holes into.
Yeah, because I
was expecting them to, have a giant egg with them. I thought, well, that would be interesting. But no, it shrunk, or stayed the same.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you could find some explanation why that happened.
Yeah. I think the issue of the kind of dimensional stabilizers screwing up and the and what it would actually be like to be that size, because there's all kinds of things that would be very different. So I don't think your body would function the same on that scale, and I'm wondering if it would feel strange, because I suppose they're an inch tall, so they're not as tiny as the tiniest insects. Because I know the very small insects, they don't stay on the ground because of gravity, they stay because of surface tension. which I'm guessing would actually feel different. But I think if you're an inch tall, it's more like being a mouse than being... Actually, well, I don't know, actually, mind you, compared with the fly, well, they were less than an inch, weren't they, unless that was a very big fly.
The fly looked smaller than them, didn't it? Wasn't it?
Oh, yes, but still at least the size of, say, maybe half the size.
Yeah, I suppose that would have been an abnormally large fly. Not that I expected things to be perfectly to scale.
Well, I suppose they said, I'm sure there was a line where they say an inch tall,
Yeah, they
but then
did.
an inch is just a very recognisable measurement that every English child would have known at the time. So it's shorthand. Maybe the TARDIS was an inch tall, so they're all a bit under. But yeah, if you were an inch tall, a fly would be about the size of a dog, depending on the breed of dog. And I'm so glad that there were no spiders or spiders' webs in this episode, because that would really have freaked. That freaked me out in The Hobbit. That freaked me out. Before you say that's big budget and 3D, the ending to the original version of The Fly really messed with my head. I get flashbacks to that. So yeah, I'm so glad no one got caught in a spider's web, because then I don't think I could have watched this. So this was the opening to the second ever season, and I will reveal that the next serial is called The Dalek Invasion of Earth. So we will now be seeing Daleks as an occupying force. Coqui, looking forward to it?
Oh, yeah, that sounds pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. And Tracy, OldeVampire, we don't know if you'll be able to join us for that, but you know the first Dalek story, and I think a title like Dalek Invasion of Earth, pretty much, pretty clearly labelled. There's not much. But
yeah, I've seen lots of pictures.
Aha. Okay. Well, hope you've have you enjoyed being on Doctor Who Fridays? Are you looking forward to being on again?
Yeah. I was a little bit nervous about joining, but you guys made it easy. Thank you.
Oh, well, we hope to have you back again soon. And, okay, well, I'm just going to go round and get final thoughts and goodbyes. So, Coqui Pirate, your final thought and goodbye.
Well, like I said before, what I got most out of this was the environmental message. Like Tracy mentioned, or Vampire, I forget what she's going by here, sorry.
No, I'm now.
In any case, the whole bee colony collapse, it's going to affect pollination, it's going to environment. This is an important issue, and I think that it was handled really well here. So, may the hamster of sustainability and ecological safety be upon you all.
I'm into that. And OldeVampire, who is called Tracy, your final thought and goodbye.
Okay, well, one thing I noticed was when they walked out of the TARDIS, the woman said, well, you said it was safe, so let's go on out. Well, how did he know it was safe, with the monitor out and everything? And it turns out it wasn't all that safe, but okay. And I will say goodbye from Hy-Vee. I wish I would have looked to see what the specials were today. I could have told everybody who is near this chain. But, yes, thank you, Hy-Vee, for letting me borrow your free Wi-Fi. And everybody has a good day.
Ah, excellent. And yes, well, the Doctor, I suppose, can check for radiation, he can check for a breathable atmosphere, he can check for all sorts. So I suppose he may have meant that, but then to say,
okay.
Also, as for checking for radiation, that didn't go too well before, but that's another story. So, I suppose all it remains for me to say is next episode, The Dalek Invasion of Earth. Diddle-a-dum, diddle-a-dum, diddle-a-dum. Wow.